I'm Bee.
And I'm Renske.
We are so grateful that you are here.
Welcome to School of Joy.
Hello, and welcome back to School of Joy. This is episode 4, and today we're going to be talking about acceptance, which is a really huge theme and one that we are fairly sure we will keep coming back to again and again. And yeah, something that we feel is a really big subject. So today's episode, we're just going to be talking about acceptance in general. We have already come up with some ideas of talking around acceptance around specific themes such as relationships and work and family life. But today we're just going to talk about it more broadly. So Renske going to start by introducing the law of love and how that relates to acceptance.
Yeah, hi. Welcome indeed. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Law of love and acceptance, how do they relate? The law of love is one of the universal laws. And the law of love really is set out in 3 steps. And this is what the Ascended Masters have shared with us, the self-mastery course. This is what we talk about right now. And the law of love, the 3 steps are acknowledgement, acceptance, and embrace. So that second step, acceptance, is such an important step. I have experienced and I've seen it in many students as well. It's mostly when students step into the 2nd year of the self-mastery course, the path of love, where this step is really important. Because I think when we start this journey of self-development, I'm assuming when you're listening, that this is a path that you're on, that you want to grow, that you want to learn. And when we start this journey, very often in the beginning, it is so that we try to change things through the mind. And that's that step. That first step is often still easy to do that through the mind, to acknowledge that, that you are triggered, that you are stuck, that you are constantly circling back in the same program, being triggered by the same people, same situations. That is that acknowledgement is very easy through the mind still. It can be still quite mental. Yet when it comes to taking that second step, coming into deeper acceptance, then the mind cannot do that by controlling it. The mind is really asked to surrender, to come into an acceptance. Acceptance is really, it's a state of being, really. And it's not something we can do, we can think. It's something we are asked to open up to receiving. So it's really learning to work through the consciousness of our heart portal. And when I speak about a heart portal, that's our heart chakra. And when I speak about a chakra, we might actually have an episode on that as well, what chakras are.
Yeah, we need to have an episode on chakras for sure.
But I'm assuming that when you're listening, you might have heard about what a chakra is. It's an energetic gateway. So it's not our physical heart that sits on the left. It's the heart center in the middle of our chest. And that's the center where we can connect with a different state of being, where we can receive a higher frequency, a higher vibration, and then we can literally lift our state of being to a frequency of acceptance so that we can experience acceptance. And I usually see acceptance as a door opening to a deeper unconditional love. That's why it's part of a step of the law of love. So the moment we step into true acceptance, we open the door to part of ourselves that maybe before we didn't like so much. We pushed it away, we judged it, we denied it, we rejected it. And when we come into an acceptance of that, we say, hey, welcome. Hey, I see you, I hear you, you're struggling. And this is then me talking to part of myself at the moment. And that really opens a door to learning from that part of ourselves. So it opens a door to deeper wisdom within ourselves. It's not a wisdom that you can find anywhere else outside of yourself. It's really learning from all the parts of yourself. And within humanity, I think at the moment we're still struggling massively with acceptance, because look around you, how much judgment we still are creating through so many different things you see going on in the world. And I think particularly for women, for example, if we talk about, for example, body acceptance, there's so much judgment still in that particular area. But if you take it to a broader scale, in wars and everything between countries and all of that, that all comes from not accepting the perspective of another, whether that be a person or a group of people. And that creates chaos, that creates drama. And that's what we're learning. We're in the stage of learning. We're still babies in that as human beings. Still babies in that learning process of lifting our state of being to the frequency of acceptance. So that's sort of what the masters, from my experience, share with us. And they are here to support us in learning this. And I think in the years of self-mastery that I've walked, I've learned many, many different lessons. So I can speak a lot about this from my own experience as well. Some bigger, some smaller, but it's not something that in this lifetime I'm expecting to master just yet. It's such a big mastery that we need multiple lifetimes for that, which sort of takes the pressure off for me as well, which is quite nice. I find, at least, gives
Yeah.
me a bit more peace of mind that I'm like, okay, it's literally like why we called the podcast School. It's school. We're in the school of life, constantly learning. So it's not something that is ever finished. We're constantly going through those cycles of acknowledging, accepting, embracing. And then another lesson will come, and then we're asked to acknowledge, accept, embrace again. And I think the more we practice, as with everything, when we learn how to drive a car, when we learn how to ride the bike, as we practice, it becomes easier and easier, and it becomes more habitual, and it becomes more part of our being. So I feel for myself, I'm now at a certain at a certain, I guess, stage in my life. Yeah, like a period in my life where I've had a lot of practice, and when something now challenges me or faces me, it triggers me, those steps become easier, and I feel much more supported. I feel much more ease. And that's really what I see happening in students as well, like yourself in the master's way, that process just becomes easier and easier. And then whenever a challenge comes along, there's not so much dreading of that. It's the perspective shift of, hey, I can learn something new again because something new is being shown to me.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious about for you then. So if something comes into your acknowledgement and you know that you're in an acknowledgement of it, but you're not in a state of acceptance, what is your process from getting from that stage? Because it's a tricky one, right?
It is. Yeah, it really is. I have to say, sometimes there's not really a set timeline for that, because sometimes I just need a bit more time to sit in that state of acknowledgement. And I see that around me happening as well. Sometimes there is a need to have a certain level of resistance, a level of frustration, really, to really come to acknowledgement, to then be able to sort of take the next step to come into deeper acceptance. So I feel that frustration is a really good thing. When I see frustration in people, I'm like, yeah, good. You're on the verge of sort of saying to yourself, okay, this is really enough now. I had enough frustration and resistance. Now I'm really ready to take that next step. And that's within myself as well. So I'm much more, I think, accepting at the moment of whenever resistance shows itself, whenever I'm being triggered, I'm more accepting already of that. But then I'm still in that acknowledgement phase of like, okay, this is happening. I'm still honoring that I'm creating that, not anyone else, but that I'm creating that. That's usually where my first step is just taking time to really come to an agreement within myself. Yeah, I am the one creating this. Then to take that step from acknowledgement to acceptance, I've come to experience that I cannot do that through my mind. And what I need is lots of meditation then, and sit in receiving, lots of connecting with my heart center. And I think we're not at the level yet as human beings that we can do that with our eyes open, to be honest. We're not in that mastery just yet. So I need to sit in stillness without any agenda, without any expectations, simply breathing. The breath brings me down into my heart center. And that's where I invite then that part of me that's being triggered, or sometimes it's multiple parts of me that are stepping forward. And then I just open to receive. And that's really the breath. That's really the breath, is receiving, 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 breathing consciously, breathing slowly, and focusing with my mind on my heart, so that this space sort of opens and expands. And it literally, you breathe in your own divine light, and you enlighten, you expand your space and your field. And therefore, you're open to receiving a higher frequency, which acceptance, divine acceptance, is one of those higher frequency, like compassion and love and all of that as well. So my one big tool is to receive, receive, receive. And I need meditation for that. For me, I've come to realize that that's the only sustainable practice, because I've had experiences like short ones. I find doing breath work in one-on-one sessions or circles that actually you're exploring at the moment as well, that can be a really nice experience to go a bit deeper if you're really stuck. But then after, I do need meditation to integrate that. But it can be sometimes a catalyst for me as well. If I find that step from acknowledgement to acceptance to be quite a struggle, I sometimes call in help from another mentor or a practitioner, like a breathwork practitioner or a healer, to help shift that first bit. And then I need meditation in, as I said, integrating that. Yeah. So
Do you find that shift into acceptance, do you find that that can be quite rapid, or do you find it's quite slow? Like, how do you actually experience that shift? How do you know, when you've gone into that acceptance?
well, how do you know is actually, to me, has become quite an easy question to answer. When I'm still triggered, I'm still not in acceptance. So how do I know is that when something happens that usually would trigger me and I feel neutral about it, I know, hey, I've come into an acceptance of this because I am not triggered by it anymore.
Does that quite often catch you by surprise? Like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I am in acceptance.
Hindsight, yeah, it's often on you. I think in transformation, in change, those little steps we don't notice, and then it's like all of a sudden. And it doesn't mean that there hasn't been change happening. It's just that our minds, they only recognize the change after a certain amount of steps of it. And then you look back and you're like, hey, when did I stop thinking that? When did I stop feeling this way? When did I stop reacting? And that's where the mind then records it as, hey, we've changed something, we've shifted something. I think in the beginning of that journey, it takes a bit longer because the mind is just simply not familiar with the heart frequency. But the more you practice, the faster that process can become. Doesn't mean that it's always fast, I have to say. There's still things popping up in my life that might take a little bit more time. And it's in divine timing in how long each step will take us. It takes as long as we need to learn the lesson. I've come to experience.
Divine timing.
Divine timing indeed, yeah. How's that for yourself? Because lately, I mean, I know through classes and sharings and stuff, you've actually gone through quite a bit of a shift in your energy as well. And I know that you've experienced a much deeper acceptance around something that used to challenge you quite a lot. Can you maybe
Mm.
share a bit about that as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, last year, ironically, I always choose a word of the year. And last year I chose acceptance. I
Mm.
always kind of am open to receiving the word in January. I don't put a time limit on it. And the word that came through was acceptance. And I have no idea what that was going to mean, but my God, last year was such a year to challenge me in acceptance. So yeah, so there was something in my life that my ego mind really, really wanted and has always wanted for my entire life. And we took steps as a family to try and make that happen. And like drastic steps, and it didn't come to fruition. Yeah, and by the end of the summer, we were just all in a complete mess, to be honest. We were really heartbroken. Yeah, we didn't really know what to do next, where to turn. And it was just the energy within our family was really, really dense. And I mean, when my daughter had no idea what was going on, but I could see that it was really affecting her
Hmm.
because me and Tom, my husband, we were just were not right. And so I had no idea what to do. And exactly as you've described, I just decided, okay, this can't go on. I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to sit and I'm going to ask for support from whoever is listening. And I'm gonna sit and receive. And I spent more time than normal meditating. And every time I went into meditation, I very much went in with the intention of, I don't know how life is meant to unfold, but I am open and willing for guidance. I'm open and willing to receive what I need to receive right now. And I mean, yeah, my energy shifted considering we were really not in a good place.
Hmm.
My energy shifted so dramatically, so rapidly. It almost took me a while to believe, actually, that I had shifted my energy around it. And I'm now several months on and I still feel like I'm in that energy. So I do trust it. But the change was so rapid and so huge that it was hard to believe. And I now feel still in a very deep place of acceptance about it.
Hmm.
And I think for me, um, the way that like the spiritual work has helped. Obviously, the meditation helped in the way that you explained, and when you were speaking about how you move from acknowledgement to acceptance, that totally resonated with how I experienced that shift. But I think for me as well, just being more connected to my spirituality,
Hmm.
to God, to the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, meant that I was able to really go into trust. And I think that's where faith
Hmm.
is really actually powerful because I still, if I'm really honest, I still have grief that what I wanted won't come to fruition. And that grief still comes up for me, and I suspect that will come up for me actually probably most of my life. But
Hmm.
I accept that, and I know that that's just emotion, and I can just allow it. When it happens now, I just allow it. I see it, I hear it, I let it flow through me, and then quite quickly it dissipates, and this feeling of acceptance comes back.
Hmm.
And yeah, and it's this sense of that, okay, I don't maybe understand why. Like my ego does not understand why, and my ego thinks it's unfair. But actually there's this deeper sense of faith and trust. And that's where being connected to something that feels much bigger than me has really supported that.
Hmm.
Um,
It is, I find, actually the only way to, because I feel that that connection with spirit is that universal higher frequency, that higher frequency of flow that creates flow, or that flows, automatically, because it just is. It's energy and flow. And that holds higher frequencies like trust. like compassion, like ease, grace, all of that. So it's when we are open to that connection that we feel the support of that connection throughout anything that we're facing, really. So I really, really resonate with what you're saying in how you've experienced that shift and that challenge. That sort of shifts from a challenge to an opportunity, because then all of a sudden you see so much more abundance around you and you see new opportunities, because before your mind would have held on to and try to control, manifesting like an expectation really that we created within our mind. And when that doesn't work out the way the mind intended it to work out, that creates so much pain and so much drama. And when we let go of that, and instead we, as you shared, we are open to receiving whatever is meant for us, then things start to flow and we see the opportunities that they might have been there already, but we just weren't able to see it because we were so focused on that one thing that we wanted from our ego mind. We weren't able to see all the other things out there that were actually also available to us. It's like when we want to buy a red car, for example, we only see red cars on the road, and we might not see the white car that's actually the perfect car for us.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how I see when the difference between, the mind and the connection, receiving through the connection of the mind or the connection from spirit, is spirit just opens up a whole lot more opportunities. And the mind is so controlling and so focused on the one thing that it wants. And it's really to learn to release those wants and needs so that we open up to the abundance of all that is out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that so clearly as well, because I think once I'd got into that frequency, then suddenly, well, I was asking, okay, so if this isn't my life's path, then you can show me what is, and in divine timing, I'm ready, I'm open. And then and literally born out of that was this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Because I would not have been open to this opportunity if my ego had got what it wanted, or if I'd continued in that state of not accepting what was. And various other things as well unfolded for me. Like you've mentioned, I'm doing this breathwork course that unfolded as well. And with those things, it was like they fell into my being, and once they began, it was like, okay, I had this deep sense of, well, now it really feels like I'm on the right path. And it didn't, ironically, at the time over the summer when we were really pursuing this thing that we wanted, deep in my being, it didn't feel right. I kind of knew intuitively, but my ego was louder. And the whole way through the process, I was like, I kept saying, Tom, there's something about this that just isn't sitting right. And it just feels in my gut. I can't explain it. It's just this gut feeling now that I feel like, okay, this is sitting nicer in my being. This feels like where I need to be. And so, of course, that deepens the trust. And I think you've mentioned the word control a few times as well. And I was reflecting on it this morning because, just for reality, we wanted this podcast to be down to earth. At the moment, I'm going through another thing, which I'm being asked to accept. And I'm definitely sitting in acknowledgement and not an acceptance of it. And so this morning I did the same as I did back then. I went into meditation. I was like, okay, I'm open to receive. And I was reflecting on it after that meditation, and I was thinking it's interesting because the reason why, for me anyway, how I experience it is the opposite of acceptance is control. Like we're trying to control everything. Our ego wants what it wants, and we're trying to control how others are, the relationships we have, like all of these things around us. Interestingly, for me, when I let go of that control at the end of the summer, actually life felt so much more peaceful and joyful. Yeah, the control thing is really big, I think, because I think we spend so much energy trying to keep ourselves safe by controlling all of these external things. And for me, how I've experienced acceptance is that life seems to be flowing so much easier, and I feel far less need to control and just open to, okay, this is just a journey. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And I think that's the hard bit for the mind, to surrender that control. That's the hard part for the mind, but it can learn, as we both know as well. The mind can learn, and it's simply to ask, to be open, even if it doesn't. If the mind cannot do it just yet, doesn't mean it can never do that. So, yeah, the moment we are setting this intention of, okay, we are open to learning a new perspective, or open to seeing a new perspective. And then we continue to sit in stillness, breathe into our hearts. Then slowly our energy will shift. And it's inevitable that then our perspective is going to shift as well. It's we're simply breathing more clarity into our field, because I always see it like this as well, that whenever I'm in doubt, whenever I'm in judgment, I am always working through my ego mind. So when I'm in doubt or when I'm in judgment, I am not yet to make a choice. That's what I learned last year. No, I think it's 2 years ago. I had a massive learning in that through something that challenged me. And the wisdom that came from that really was that when I'm sitting in doubt, when I'm sitting in judgment, it is for me to become still, to receive, and to trust what you said as well, to trust that if I do that, clarity will come, and I will know what I need to choose, what I'm asked to choose in my highest potential as a next step. And I remember that moment vividly. It took me months, really. That was quite a long time of that step from, well, if you say months, actually, it's relatively short, really, in a lifetime even. But it took me months to come from that step of, okay, I'm acknowledging that I'm sitting in doubt and I'm sitting in judgment. Usually I would push through to make a choice from that space. And of course, I will recreate it then in the next situation again. So I haven't learned anything from it. So this time around, I was like, okay, I know for sure that at the moment I'm working through my ego will. That's what it is. So I'm going to sit, receive, 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 breathe. And I knew that I still remember that moment. I was in class, and I think Ishtar was in class, and she said something. And Ishtar is the one that channels the courses, like the Master's Weight courses. She said something, and my whole being, my whole field vibrated and was like, yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
know now what to choose, and I feel so much ease, so much acceptance, so much clarity around this. And that really has helped me now to use that almost as a tool. Is there doubt to my field? Not supposed to make a choice yet. And then I just sit and receive to shift my perspective. That feels so peaceful almost, because then you stop pushing change. You stop trying to like work your way through and struggle your way through change. You just allow change to happen in the timing that it is meant to happen.
Mm.
And yeah, I guess that is something that, yeah, I wish for more people to experience that level of ease in their life. And again, like you said, doesn't mean that there's no challenges. At the moment, I'm going through a challenge as well. My daughter of 6 months, she is not a very good sleeper yet. She's learning to sleep. And of course, that does something with my physical body, but it also does something to the mental and emotional body, 100%. And that I can work with. So I noticed that I was trying to control it as well, trying to force all sorts of things to change that, where it was only last week where I realized that I was trying to push my way through it again, trying to control my way through it, that I was like, okay, wait, stop. This is what it is. She's learning to sleep, and that's still very little. She still needs me a lot. That means I'm not sleeping a lot. She sleeps when she's on me, but I don't. And that is what it is. So let me sit in more a receiving state again. So I started doing more activations from the path of love again to come into that receptive state. And activations are, for those who don't know what activations are, they are high frequency meditations where you receive a higher frequency to shift your state of being. And I noticed 2 nights ago that I think she was crying the most she'd done ever, but I felt so much acceptance around that. And that was again a learning in, okay, yeah, it's for me to receive. I can change my mental and emotional state of being. And therefore, then physically, I feel much better as well. Then physically, I'm much more able to perform as well because my mental and emotional are so much more aligned and in flow that my physical, of course, responds to that as well, even to little hours of sleep. And it doesn't mean, like, even like last night, that I felt that same level of acceptance, but I'm going through that learning cycle again. And yeah, it's just a beautiful learning, really. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think when you're in that energy of acceptance, it's so beautiful compared to being in the resistance of it, isn't it? If only it was just super easy to get there all the time, but we're learning. I think what you said earlier as well about the fact that it's a mastery and that it takes, it's not just for us to accept everything in this life. I think that's
Oh,
that's quite a big thing for me, I think, as well. I remember when I first started therapy, it's 15 years ago, thinking, I'll go for 6 weeks and then I'll be sorted. And life will be really easy. I'm how naive and how wrong I was. But I think there's something really nice about, again, what spirituality has brought me is this sense of this in this life, it's just for us to experience life.
yeah.
And like that word school again, I could come back to it, but things like it doesn't always have to be perfect. It's part of the journey to experience all of these things, from suffering to acceptance, and there's beauty in that. And yeah, thank goodness we'll get more opportunities in other lives.
I was just thinking of when you're listening and you feel like, yeah, but how can I then, are there not more tools to come into that state of acceptance? And what I just thought of was a tool for me that really helped me and continues to help me is to zoom out. When I'm in that drama, when I'm in that struggle, I remember when Lily was really young, my daughter, when you have those peak moments of crying when they're at 6 weeks old, um, that's where I was really asked to shift my mindset again, because it can really feel like a struggle otherwise. If we're constantly trying to, shush that baby and make it calm. I then also learned, that the crying had a different purpose, which really helped as well. So I was more inviting the crying also, which was really supporting and shifting my mindset around that. But another thing that really supported me is that I came back to becoming the observer. So I literally zoomed out, like I could see myself almost like a bird, like this bird of prey, flying, soaring over myself, holding Lily, crying in the night. And I was observing what was happening and what I was feeling. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm having a tough time emotionally, mentally at the moment. But at the same time, me zooming out also was able to see how beautiful that she chose me and I chose her to have this experience of life together. I can even have tears of gratitude for that right now as I'm speaking about it. Like, how beautiful that we are able to walk side by side, that I'm seeing her exploring the world, like on this adventure together. And from that gratitude, from seeing the whole timeline of our life almost, I was able to zoom back in from that level of gratitude, and the crying didn't matter. It didn't matter anymore. There was just because of the gratitude, there was a level of peace and ease and acceptance therefore as well. So if you're struggling, I think what I'm sharing is a tool there really is to, can you zoom out? Can you zoom out and observe that it's not just this one thing happening. There's so many more things happening, and your whole life is really an unfolding of learning and opportunity to learn. And yeah, that for me really helps. It really helps to shift my energy. It doesn't always shift immediately, but eventually it will. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you have any tools for yourself that you feel that are really helpful?
Well, yeah, I mean, as you were speaking, actually, I was thinking about a situation. So one of my friends, bless her, she lost her mum quite suddenly over the summer, and so she's very deep still in her grief. And talking of zooming out, I lost my mum 10.5 years ago. So in comparison to her, I am almost in the zoomed out state. And, if you ask me now, my mum dying was one of the best things that happened to me. We were super close. So if you told me that the day after she died, I would have been incredibly angry with you.
Yeah, of course.
Now I see there was such a catalyst for so much change. And there is some research that they've done where they've asked people, that have been through big challenges in their life, would you change that? And the vast majority, well over 90%, say that they wouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's just really interesting. And I think, for my friend then who's lost her mum, we met up at the weekend, and it's still it's so early days, and I can already see these little shifts in her that I know are going to mount up to really, really big changes. And I can see that, I can already see that she is on this path, that she is going to make something so beautiful out of this. And that when she is where I am 10 years from now, she'll be like, wow. I know that she won't take back what's happened right now in 10 years' time. And she can't, I'm sure she doesn't feel that way now, of course. So I think, that's something for me. I mean, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. So I think maybe when I am going through something challenging, that's a nice reminder for me that right now this doesn't make sense. But again, it's that trust. Okay, think about how this might unfold in 5-10 years' time. How might I look back at this time and think, yes, actually, it was such a big gift. And we've talked about this before. I really do believe the greater our suffering, the greater the gift that is there for us to unwrap if we choose it. So, but not always easy when you're in it, of course.
No. I think what's very supportive as well is how we always end the podcast with sharing our joy sparks. That's something, when you start to focus on what brings you joy, you're going to see more of that when you practice that. And when you start to become grateful for what you already have, that sort of multiplies in your life. So it might be now a beautiful transition actually to sharing our joy sparks. Did you have a beautiful joy spark over the last couple of?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we recorded, so I have loads actually, but I'm just gonna choose something really, really simple, which was actually when I went and met that friend the other day, and we met at dawn, and I was driving across the beautiful Wye Valley, and I was on the top of this hill, and the sun was just coming up. It was cloudy, but there was a gap in the clouds, and the sun was just peeking through, and it's we're at the deepest depths of January in Britain, and it's very, very gloomy and grey. And I just was just driving and just had this sense of being really deeply connected and peaceful, and so much gratitude for this life. And I think that's the thing with the joy sparks. I think the idea behind them is that they're not these major big things that satisfy our ego. And I really invite our listeners, I really invite you to just notice these little tiny moments. That's why I chose that one specifically, because I thought this is actually such a small moment, but the way I felt and the gratitude I had. Yeah, so that's what I'm inviting.
It's the perspective that we hold, really. Yeah. That's that frequency in our field. Yeah. Yeah, I think mine relates to that. It was such a small moment. And I already spoke to it a little bit before. 2 nights ago, Lily was struggling and she was crying a lot. But I think in the days before, I was able to shift my energy a lot more. So when I was holding her that night, holding space for her crying, for her to release whatever she was going through and releasing, I felt so much gratitude for our connection. I felt so much gratitude that, again, she chose me to hold the space for her to release and to grow and to learn. That even though I had probably 2 or 3 hours of sleep that night, that moment, that glimpse of joy of sharing the journey of life together, um, that really shifted my energy. For the last couple days, I've been in that energy still of the gratitude for life. And I notice it then as well, how I respond to, when we have the other 2 girls with us as well. Our household is complete chaos, then I can just hold myself so much easier. So yeah, it was a little moment during the night, but it sort of continued for the last couple days, that energy. So it was really, really beautiful.
We'll soon take a short moment to ground and anchor together. If this conversation resonated and you'd like to go a little deeper, we'd love to welcome you into our Joy Circle, a monthly newsletter where we share extra reflections, meditations, and resources to support you. You can find us on Instagram at School of Joy Podcast, and we'd love for you to support us on our mission to spread more light and joy in the world by sharing with family and friends. You'll find all the links in the episode description. Thanks again for listening.
Just take some nice, beautiful, deep breaths. And just invite your mind to step back and be present just for a minute here. And just connecting with that beautiful heart space. Just focusing on your heart space as you breathe. I'm just inviting you to sit in gratitude of your life, of all the little joy sparks and all the challenges and all the gifts on this beautiful journey.